Evening, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back with our Wednesday night favorites. This is the show I do every week. Throat's kind of dry today. Anyways, this is the show we do every week, in which I pick either a top 5 of some kind or top 10. Or maybe even once in a while a top 15 or the 25, which is those are usually the 4 I do. This week I've decided to do a 5. So we're doing basically this subject, just kind of a little bit difficult to penhole. I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to approach it or which bands I was going to use. I originally had 5 that were all progressive, and I took a couple of those out to put in some things that aren't so progressive, so that you can see it's not just the progressive elements that happen here. So the title of this one will be 5, I guess you would call this 5 rock bands that were sort of dominated by one member. Sometimes this happened early on. Sometimes it went on for a while before it actually happened. And in some cases, well, at least in the one case here, we have a band who actually, after several albums, the main guy took over the band and basically it became a solo band. And you probably have all guessed where we're going with that one, but we'll get to it when we get to it. So those are the kind of a bit of a gray area here. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what happened here. I had some other bands that I had wanted to include here too, but because I decided only 5, I had to eliminate a couple of them. But we may do a second episode of this one. Intrigues people at any rate. So basically, I have 5 bands here that were sort of dominated by one person. Eventually took control of the band and they became the band. Like there's lots of these type of bands now, but because so many members have passed, they're left with one member. But these are the ones I think kind of strike a chord with me a bit. So the first one is this band, Camel. Yes, it's pretty easy to see where this is going. So, of course, you've got and I think there's about the first 6 albums where they kind of had mostly the same guys in the band. And, you had basically a couple guys that were a little bit more dominant than others, Pete Barden's being one of them, of course, and Andy Latimer being the other one. Eventually, after Breathless, Pete Barden's left the band, and it became pretty much Andy's band, although I think it was getting that way before Pete left the band anyways, dominated primarily by Andy Latimer. I think of this one as kind of a soft one, though. This is not really a kind of power struggle or anything. It's just, he was the one left, so he kind of ran the band. And he actually closed the band down for a while, came back, closed it down for a while, and came back with different people each time to keep it going at different time periods. And I'm not sure about this band, though, if they're still going or not. I haven't got that far along with them. They may be in a down period again. I'm not sure. But pretty much it is the brainchild now of Andy Latimer. He's the one that keeps this going. And he probably was initially the leader to begin with. And it's just as people have dropped out and left, he's just become the sole advocate of the band now. I liked their early stuff with him and Pete Barden's and Ferguson and the drummer as well, whose name is just slipping my brain at the moment. It's a problem with working so late. I'm tired a lot of the time, so I can't remember everything I want to do. And this, of course, before I get too far, is going to be a little bit late, primarily because I come in late. So it'll probably be like the last Monday one, which was late as well. So... and it'll be like this periodically throughout December just because we're really busy. I'm hoping that after December, in January, I'll have a lot more time, and so therefore there won't be any lateness to it. But anyway, so this was the first band I wanted to just mention about. So kind of a soft takeover, you might want to say. No, there's no real kind of fighting going on. It's just that it just ended up that way, that Andy Latimer ended up as being the kind of chief architect of the band, a band that I kind of like a lot. So the second one, and these are in no particular order. If I had to say they were in an order, I would say it is, they've gone from maybe a kind of a soft takeover to a much more aggressive takeover. So the next one, Jethro Tull, there's really any argument about this one. Really only had that first album where Mick Abrams was a member, and there was kind of a bit of a conflict there. It wasn't much of a conflict. It was more a conflict of what musical direction to take, and Mick decided he wanted to go more full into blues, so he left. Ian Anderson then took over completely, and it's pretty much been that way since the beginning. This is not necessarily a bad thing either, nor was the Camel one, although I think when Pete Bardens was there, the band, the music they played was more to my liking anyways, where with Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson did all the writing. He did all of the writing of the music and the lyrics, pretty much everything, and the other guys played the music, and they've of course had their different periods. The earlier period, really good, solid, and then the period with John Glasscock and Barrymore Barlow. This band was maybe their best incarnation. Probably the best incarnation of the band. And then they've had different members throughout their history, and even recently, their stuff is completely new people that were never in the band before, but it still sounds like Jethro Tull, and the reason it does is because Ian Anderson dominates the band by doing just about everything. It's his band. He could have. The kind of funny part about it is that he has done some solo stuff. I'm not really a big fan of his solo stuff, which is kind of funny since he does all the writing here. So why is it so different? I'm not really sure. Maybe somebody has something to say. Maybe the band members do have a huge impact with this band because they play that Jethro Tull style. It's still going on, even though his voice has kind of changed a little bit. So that's the second band. The third band, this one is not a progressive band. I would say this, to me, originally I liked it because they were a hard rock band, but then they eventually became a kind of commercial pop band, and we're talking about Aerosmith. And I have no doubt when the band was their early incarnation of the band, which is a hard rock band with some fantastic bluesy, rocky tunes, were the byproduct of the entire band, with Perry and Tyler kind of leading the way. I need another drink here. But as they went along, they became more of a poppy band. A lot of ballads, way too many ballads for me. Kind of lost complete interest in the band at this point. And this was pretty much dominated by Steven Tyler. So he kind of controls the band. Perry's kind of went in the background quite a bit. So this is not necessarily a good thing. I think there's some animosity here. Maybe not as much as you might think there is, but the direction in which they took, I don't think it was entirely appealing to other members of the band, but that's the direction that Steven Tyler wanted to go in, and so that's the direction they took. I don't know if it probably started in around this time period. This album still has a little bit of that classic sound to it, but it's mostly pop and radio-friendly songs and ballads. So the fourth band on this list, this one will not come as any surprise for any of you who watch this channel. We're talking about King Crimson here. Was there ever any doubt right from the get-go that Robert Fripp was going to be in charge of this band? This was his project. This was his brainchild. This was his child, period. And if you didn't play the way he wanted, you were out of there. Didn't matter who you were. So this is a little bit more of an aggressive takeover. Is it a bad takeover? Well, considering how good all of these albums are, I would have to say probably the the good part has vastly outweighed any of the kind of aggravating parts that people may have found with that. Robert Fripp, of course, multi-talented individual. Definitely the leader of this band. Not necessarily because he wrote the lyrics, because he didn't. Not necessarily because of him having written all the music, because he didn't. But I think a lot of it has to do with, it was his direction. They played the way he wanted to play, and pretty much that's the way it is. And you can see it because how many different eras of King Crimson are there? How many different lineup changes has there been? And always, every single album, to a great extent, even though it sounds fairly different from all the other ones, you got your little bit errors, all fantastic errors. There's no bad error. Some errors are greater than others, I guess. But I got to say that this one's one of those ones pretty much dominated by the one member. And it continues to be that way. They're not even playing anymore because that one member doesn't want to do it. And that's kind of the way it is, right? And then the last one, this one I had in, took it out, put it back in, took it out, and just put it back in again because I wanted to do a little bit more of this genre, which is hard rock. And we're talking about Alice Cooper here. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So this band, I don't know how many albums they had. Maybe it was 6 or 7. And then at some point during that time, he changed his name. The band's name was Alice Cooper, and he took the vocalist took the name over and became Alice Cooper. And then eventually it just became his band. So much so that it then became a solo band. All of the members of the Alice Cooper band gone, replaced by other people. And it just became a solo band pretty much. So that is kind of the ultimate kind of domination where one guy takes over and then just makes it his own. And it's completely his own thing, solo stuff, and no longer even any kind of idea that it's the original band. Do I fault Alice Cooper for that? No, not absolutely not. He was the dominating force in the band. The stage presence, the show, the music, everything became him. In fact, for me personally, I did not even know that there were until maybe sometime in the mid 80s when my friend would say, no, there was a band called Alice Cooper, and that band became a solo guy called Alice Cooper. So it just transitioned. And I did not know that. I always thought it was him from the beginning. But you learn these things as you go along. So, but, for each of these 5 bands, I think the solo dominating character for each band has, for the most part, for at least 3 of them, these 3, Alice Cooper, King Crimson, and Jethro Tull, I think the one solo dominating guy has made the music as good as it is. For Camel, maybe not so much so. Maybe it would have been better if they'd stayed as a kind of a group effort. It's not, I don't think their music is nearly as good as it was. So maybe that is a bit of a detriment. And in the case of this one, definitely they were much better as a group effort. And then the one guy taking over kind of sunk the ship, I guess, if you want to call it. So these are all just my opinions too. I may be completely wrong, or I may have decidedly different views than other people have. That's fine. It's all subjective, no matter how you want to look at it. If you've got a different opinion about it, you may absolutely put your comments in the comment section. You can disagree. I don't have a problem. But please, refrain from derogatory comments. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help me either. Anyways, please hit the like and subscribe. That's much appreciated. And the notification bell. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was fun to do. If people want, I might. If it does well enough, I'll probably do a second parter because there's a bunch of other bands that I think need to be talked about a little bit in this light as well. And that was an interesting topic. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please, like I said, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. And we will see you next Wednesday when we'll be doing another favorites. Take care and have a good night. Goodbye.